This is a Pele Media podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in again to Goonies Minute. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we carefully explore the movie Goonies minute by minute. I'm Brady.
And this is Chris.
And today we are covering Goonies Minute number 43. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well. You know what's exciting?
What's that?
Bluebell ice cream, the large quart
Yeah.
or the large gallon is only $4.99 right now at the local Walgreens.
No kidding.
If you have one of the cards.
What the hell are we doing here?
They used to be like $7 and something cents all the time, but it's unfortunate. The reason why they are so cheap is because of some of the problems they've had recently. But they've isolated those problems, I think, into there was the chocolate chip cookie dough. It was actual cookie dough was one thing, and then something else.
Wasn't it you could get salmonella?
Yeah, well, that was the first one, and then they got everything back up running again, and then they had to stop the chocolate chip cookie dough because the cookie dough was coming from a company that was was screwed up. But I think you can eat the ice cream now and not get salmonella.
That wouldn't stop me. Chocolate chip cookie dough is pretty
let me
good.
tell you this: if I knew I was going to get salmonella, I think it would stop me.
Really? Yeah. Yeah. When I was like 10 years old, I had a horrible toothache. It came out of nowhere while I was eating ice cream. I mean, it was like, bring you to your knees pain. And I had to keep
sure that
eating
wasn't
the ice
like
cream.
the headache from the cold?
And
but you know what? Here's the thing, though. When you have a cavity and that nerve is exposed, it's very sensitive to cold temperatures.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways you can tell if you have a cavity. So that's a little amateur dentistry there for you.
There you go.
Big guy.
Somebody really needs to do Marathon Man Minute. You know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Dustin Hoffman movie from the 70s where Olivier.
I've heard of it, but I know nothing.
They're trying to get some answers out of him that he doesn't know, and so he uses dental drills and stuff like that with no Novocaine or anything to get the answers
Just should
out of
have
him.
used ice cream.
Just should have used ice cream, right?
But I have a better idea.
Get into the minute?
You want to get into the minute?
Let's get into the minute.
All right.
In the previous minute, Data found a counterfeit money printer, and the gang assumed that they had found the solution for saving the Goondocks. After realizing that the money was bogus, Stephanie uncovered a newspaper with the Fratelli's mugshots on the front page. At 43 minutes, Chunk yells at the rest of the group about how he was right about them being criminals, and that the rest of the gang were wrong in having not believed him. He continues his rant as he walks away from the group, but he is suddenly stopped in his tracks when he smells ice cream. He walks towards a giant walk-in freezer and already recognizes the flavors of the ice cream based on the smell. While he excitedly picks up each carton, the rest of the gang notice something behind him in the freezer. Something frightening. As they slowly approach, Chunk notices that they're looking at something behind him. They were looking at the corpse of one of the FBI agents. The corpse has a bullet hole in the middle of his forehead. Chunk screams and knocks into the corpse, causing it to fall on top of the group. They drop the corpse to the ground when they hear footsteps above. And thus ends minute 43 of the Goonies. All right, so for the second time in this movie, we have a prop newspaper, which always, for some reason, I'm always interested in prop newspapers. I don't know why.
We want to see what's really on that page.
We really do. And this is the Astoria Ledger, and you can barely, it's got the pictures of the mugshots of the Fratellis, so it's kind of what's validating who the people are that they're dealing with. And ramping up the stakes, we have got to get out of this building. And then, of course, we're going to see that the Fratellis, come back, and they're there. So there's no way that these kids can go back up in the way that they get out the way that they came in from the building. The only way they can go is down underneath this fake fireplace. So,
well, I tell you what, it starts with Chunk kind of upset because he reiterates to the group, this is what I've been trying to tell you the whole time. And he's kind of pissed. He's like, you guys are crazy. There's a funny farm with your name on it. And he says he's leaving. And it's so interesting because he has been trying to tell them this. And then they see the newspaper article and they act like it's news to them. And it's so frustrating to Chunk because he's been trying to tell them they just didn't believe it, and they just won't give him credit for saying this, and he's just upset. But getting back to the Chunk that we all know and love, he starts to walk away in the middle of that little speech. He smells ice cream. And then he goes to the freezer, and of course he opens up the freezer, and he starts mentioning all of the different types of flavors, and we see the Swenson ice cream, which is a great paid product placement, although It's in the freezer with a dead guy in it.
True.
But before we get to the dead guy, so you see this neat camera work of the group slowly walking in unison towards the freezer. And if you've never seen the movie before, of course, you don't know what they're about to see.
Right.
But it's so fascinating as they walk up.
Yeah, I've got another quick question about the newspaper, which is dated October 24th. So that kind of gives us an idea of when this movie's taking place. There's another article. There's all kinds of stuff on that front page, including the thing about the unemployment. And there's another little section that says Salmon Run improves. What the hell does that mean?
Okay. Salmon is big in that part of the country.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that whenever they're spawning, the salmon come from they go up from saltwater through the rivers and they swim upstream. Mm-hmm. And if the numbers are improving, that means there's just more salmon that year coming upstream, and that's when a lot of the fishermen will try to catch them.
See, I'm not surprised that you know this because you're a big cook and salmon is like your expertise, right?
I have many.
You have many expertise. All right.
But it's one of the things that I cook well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. I know a couple people that have lived up there,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, so the more salmon they have coming in from the salt water to come in to spawn, then the salmon run is going to be better.
There you go.
So that's where that comes
there's
from.
A little bit of good news on that front page.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's get into the FBI agent who's kept up in there.
Yeah. So I mentioned them creeping towards Chunk, and then all of a sudden you finally, as he starts, the guy, the frozen stiff, starts to fall, you get to see, a dead FBI agent that has a bullet hole right smack dab in his forehead. And I have a little note to mention. I can remember seeing people shot in movies as a kid, but very rarely did you see the headshot.
Yeah.
It was always a shot in the gut.
Or the arm or something.
The arm.
Yeah.
Even if people die, it was always like you really weren't seeing the bullet hole. And anytime, and this is just as a kid really got to me, anytime that I would see that bullet hole to the head, it was much more real.
Yeah. And we're not just getting a quick glimpse of it. We have a corpse with a very lively look on his face.
Yes, with
horrified look
with that bullet hole.
With a bullet hole right in his forehead, and he slowly turns and he looks right into the camera, and not just that, and he falls onto a child. Mm-hmm. This corpse falls like right on top of him. But no, you're right. It is a very effective close-up of a corpse face that looks. It's kind of like a frozen expression. Obviously, he's dead, but it's also a very much lively expression. I don't know. It's incredibly
they
effective.
could have done it without the bullet hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously he would be dead if he's in the freezer looking like that with his eyes open. But it's the way this movie is with the hands in blenders and the hanging. I wouldn't expect it any other way.
Right.
That they're not going to sugarcoat that image. It's
correct.
Like they wanted you to see. Yeah. Not only was he dead, but to me, that shows how much more ruthless it portrays the Fratellis even more ruthlessly if we show the actual bullet hole in the head.
Yeah.
Because that was a kill shot. It was not intended to maim. It was intended to kill.
Right. And I can only imagine that there wasn't... Okay, so we heard 2 gunshots. That means there was not a firefight in here. That means people were executed.
Yes.
So it
was execution.
Makes it so much more dark. And yet it's played for laughs. So I want to get into... the actor who's playing him, that very well could have been a dummy, a really convincing-looking dummy, but no, it's not. It's a stuntman named Ted Grossman. And Steven Spielberg has kind of kept this guy employed for several years. His work with Spielberg, and Ted Grossman has been in all number of movies, but he's been highly connected to Spielberg for many years, starting with Steven Spielberg's very first movie, The Sugarland Express, and then he was in Jaws, E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Return of the Jedi, which I know isn't Spielberg, but it's in the neighborhood. And he was also in Cocoon, which Spielberg produced, and he was lastly in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So he's been all over Spielberg's movies. Now, do you remember in Jaws, there's a scene where the little boys, the son of the lead character, the chief, is in like a little boat, like a little dinghy, and he's out, and some other guy comes over, and then the shark knocks that thing over. Guy falls in the water, and then it bites his leg off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's him. That's the FBI agent.
Really?
That guy. Yeah. And
That's
so,
interesting.
yeah, I know. Every time I see him, I recognize him, but I can't put my finger on where he's from. So
Now you know.
now you know. I know that, and I know that ice cream hurts your teeth.
Why is Brant wearing that stupid bandana?
The
When did
80s.
Karate Kid come out?
Karate Kid would have been before this,
That's okay.
I think.
Maybe that's why he's wearing. Because didn't Danielson wear
Danielson, yeah, he
Danielson.
wore. Yeah, he did.
that?
He did, and
Danielson.
yeah, that was a cool look. And
No, I don't think it was that cool, but I think it sucked. But
apparently,
but I don't really like that bandana. The other thing is, you get the comment, it's a stiff.
Yeah.
They say that a lot. And then
wait, is it's a stiff, or is he saying it's not stiff, meaning he's freshly dead? It's not stiff. Is that what he's saying, or is he saying it's a stiff?
if he's saying it's not stiff, then that's the first time in
That's-
however many years.
That's how I've always heard it, and he's saying that because like that means this dude was just killed if he's not stiff yet.
By the way he fell, did he seem like he was not stiff?
I mean, he's kind of all over the place, wiggly. His head's moving around and everything. I don't know. I really never.
Man, are we gonna have to go back and check that now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Right. We'll have to
Anyway,
check that. But at the end, you can hear the Fratellis coming back. And
That's true.
That's how the minute ends. So
yeah,
So I know we'll have to be checking.
yeah, right.
You know.
All right, well, that's all I've got for today. How about you?
That's all I have.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in again for Goonies Minute number 43. We will see you back here tomorrow for Goonies Minute 44. And until then, this is Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies
Never
say
say
die.
Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram at GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at Patreon.com/PeleMedia. Check us out on Facebook at Facebook.com/PeleMedia and follow us on Twitter at Twitter.com/PeleMedia.